I brought $200,000 with me when I moved into my son's home. After losing Harold to a long illness and selling the house we built together, I told myself this was the next chapter. Not a favor, not charity. Just a mother choosing to live near the only family she had left. Marcus, my son, had offered months ago. "Come live with us, Mom. It'll be good for everyone. You won't be alone. And Celine and I could use the help with Elijah." It sounded sweet then. Safe, like a return to something familiar. I imagined dinners at the table, school pickups, sharing stories. But things don't always turn out the way you imagine them. I arrived on a Thursday. Celine opened the door, smiling too wide for someone who hadn't returned any of my messages in 2 weeks. "You made it," she said, stepping aside. Elijah came running and hugged my waist. "Grandma, you smell like the butter cookies." That part made me smile. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. The house was newer than I expected. Everything white and beige and polished like a magazine ad. Celine had redecorated since the last time I visited. There were no toys in the living room, no family photos. Just glass bowls, fake plants, and perfectly positioned furniture. It felt more like a waiting room than a home. Marcus came in from the garage, wiping his hands on a towel. "Hey, Ma," he said, kissing my cheek. "We're so glad you're here." I nodded, trying to ignore the tension in Celine's shoulders. I'd only just stepped in. They gave me the guest room downstairs, across from the laundry area. "It's temporary," Marcus said. "We're thinking about converting the den into a suite for you. Just need time." I didn't ask for a suite. I didn't need luxury. Just somewhere warm, somewhere safe. That night, we had takeout. Elijah sat beside me, showing me drawings from school. I asked Celine if she needed help with the dishes after, and she said, No. Go ahead and rest. You had a long trip." But as I walked past the kitchen later, I heard her talking to Marcus in a low voice. "She's going to be here full-time now, isn't she? I just wish we had discussed this longer." I didn't stop walking, didn't react. I chalked it up to adjustment. The next few days passed quietly. I unpacked. I organized my medication. I transferred the funds from the house sale into a shared account with Marcus, like we had discussed. "Only for emergencies," I told him. "I trust you, baby." He nodded. Celine started leaving early in the mornings. Marcus worked from home most days, holed up in the office with his headset and laptop. Elijah was at school. That left me with laundry, dishes, and silence. I didn't mind. I liked being useful. One morning, while folding clothes in the laundry room, I overheard them through the vent. They didn't know the wall carried sound. I didn't mean to hear anything. But when I caught my name, I froze. "She's never going to leave, Marcus," Celine said. Her voice was tight. "You think this is temporary? She moved in with all her stuff. She brought her retirement with her. She's settling in like this is hers." "It's just for now," Marcus said, sounding tired. "She said we could use the money if something big comes up. She won't even notice if we dip into it. Honestly, we need to think about putting her somewhere before she starts needing real care. I'm not changing diapers for a woman who doesn't even pay rent." Didn't move. I didn't breathe. I stared at the basket of towels like they were going to speak for me. The door was cracked just enough that I could hear everything. Marcus didn't defend me. He didn't say, "She raised me." He didn't say, "Don't talk about her like that." He just said, "Let's not rush it." Celine laughed, a dry, mean sound I hadn't heard before. You think she'll give up control? Not a chance. But maybe if she thinks we're helping, she'll hand over the rest of that account. Then we ease her into a facility. They moved on to talking about brunch with some friends, about a paint color for the hallway. My name didn't come up again. I stood there for what felt like forever. Something inside me went still. Not broken, just quiet. Like the moment right after a storm, when the wind drops and the damage becomes visible. That evening I didn't say a word. I made Elijah dinner while Celine texted at the counter, and Marcus watched TV. I cleaned up, folded a blanket, and sat in the guest room with the door closed. I stared at the ceiling fan, trying to understand how quickly things had shifted. This wasn't confusion. I wasn't misreading anything. They were planning to take what I had left and put me out like last season's furniture. That night I didn't sleep much. I replayed every moment since I arrived, every odd comment, every look, every time Celine smiled without softness. I thought about Harold, how he always said, "Don't be so quick to assume people love you just because they know your name." I used to think he was bitter. Maybe he was just prepared. I woke up early and packed a small bag. Just enough clothes, my medicine, some documents. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't wake anyone. I left a note on the nightstand. Had to step out for a few days. Don't worry. I didn't know if I'd ever come back. I called a cab from the corner. The driver didn't ask questions when I asked him to take me to the Marriott near downtown. I booked the room under my maiden name. By 9 a.m. I was sitting on the edge of a hotel bed, with my purse clutched in my lap, staring at the beige walls. My hands were steady. My heart was not. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 10 years. "Loretta Hamilton," the voice answered. "It's Mildred," I said. There was a long pause. Then, "Mildred Carter? Is everything all right?" "No," I said. "But it will be. I need help." And just like that, everything started to change. I hadn't spoken to Loretta Hamilton in over a decade, but she still answered her phone, like we'd just had coffee last week. Same even tone, same calm voice that used to talk me through Harold's estate paperwork, when I didn't know the difference between a living will and a durable power of attorney. She didn't ask why I was calling from a hotel room under a different last name. She didn't ask if Marcus was okay. Instead, she asked where I was staying, and if I had cash on hand. When I told her I had withdrawn a few hundred before leaving, she said, "Good. Don't use your cards again until we meet." By noon, she was knocking on my hotel room door, holding a small leather briefcase, and wearing the same no-nonsense blazer I remembered from years ago. Her hair was streaked with more silver now, but she walked with purpose. I opened the door and she stepped inside without hesitation. "You're safe," she said immediately, scanning the room. "That's what matters right now." I nodded and sat back down on the bed. She didn't ask questions right away. She opened her briefcase, pulled out a fresh yellow legal pad, and clicked her pen. "Start from the beginning," she said. I told her everything, from the moment Marcus invited me to move in, to the morning I overheard him and Celine talking through the wall. I described the bank transfer, the guest room, the way Celine looked at me like I was a worn-out appliance they couldn't wait to unplug. I spoke without raising my voice. I kept my hands folded in my lap. But Loretta didn't need volume to understand what was happening. Her pen scratched the paper with steady strokes. By the time I finished, she had 2 full pages of notes. "They haven't touched the joint account since I left," I said. "At least not from what I saw before I shut it down online this morning. I moved everything to a new account, just in my name." "Good," she said. That was your first smart move. You still have legal control of those funds. I also still have copies of everything, I added. Statements, deed records, insurance policies. I brought a folder. She took the folder from my hands and opened it on the desk. She flipped through the pages quickly but carefully. This is more than enough for now. Loretta looked up. Mildred, what do you want to do? I didn't answer right away. The truth was, I hadn't planned that far. I just knew I had to get out before they made good on whatever plan they were cooking up. But now, sitting across from someone who could actually do something, the words came easy. I want to make sure they can't touch a single dime of what I've worked for, I said. And I want to live somewhere that's mine, not theirs, not shared, not temporary. She nodded. Then we start there. We spent the next 2 hours drafting new documents. Loretta pulled up a durable power of attorney form and updated the beneficiary designations on my accounts. We started the paperwork to revoke the joint account access Marcus had. She told me the court could freeze the previous account for a few days, but it was worth doing to protect myself. After that, we discussed property. The home I had sold before moving in with Marcus had been in my name alone, and the profits from that sale, the $200,000 I brought with me, were all from that asset. They can't claim ownership over that money, Loretta said. Even if you had given them access, that doesn't make it theirs. She opened her laptop and started searching for condos, townhomes, even small houses for sale in neighborhoods I'd lived near before. You want to stay in the city? She asked. I paused. No. Somewhere quieter, but close enough that Elijah can visit if he ever wants to. Loretta nodded. She knew better than to ask if I'd be seeing Marcus or Celine again. By the time she left, we had an entire plan in motion. New accounts, legal protections, a real estate contact, a temporary P.O. box, a pending restraining clause in case Marcus or Celine tried anything suspicious. Loretta was efficient and kind in the way people are when they know you don't need pity. Do you want me to notify them officially? She asked before leaving. Send a legal notice about the financial changes. No, I said. Let them wonder. That night I slept better. Not because everything was fixed, but because I wasn't sitting in a house with walls that whispered behind my back. I had always thought growing old meant accepting what was given to you. But now I was learning that it could also mean drawing a line and saying, enough. The next day, I walked to the small diner across from the hotel. I ordered a plain breakfast, eggs, toast, coffee. Nothing special. But the waitress smiled and called me sweetheart and asked if I needed anything else. No one sighed at me. No one rushed me out of the kitchen or made passive comments about my age. After breakfast, I called Loretta. She told me she'd already scheduled a showing for a small single-story house on the edge of a quiet suburb. Owners motivated to sell. All cash offers preferred. It's not fancy, but it's yours if you want it. I met her there by noon. The house was small, yes, but clean. 2 bedrooms, a little backyard, no stairs, a porch swing, a real kitchen, with counter space. I walked through it slowly, touching the cabinets, running my hand along the wall like I was testing it for truth. I stood in the empty living room and nodded. This is it, I said. Let's make an offer. Loretta didn't blink. She already had the paperwork in her briefcase. Within the hour, we had sent in a full cash offer. No contingencies, no back and forth. Just yes or no. By the end of the week, the offer was accepted. Didn't call Marcus. I didn't tell Elijah. I didn't text anyone. I sat in my hotel room and wrote a list of what I'd need for the new house. Towels, sheets, a set of dishes, cleaning supplies, curtains. I didn't have furniture anymore, but I didn't mind starting over. I had started over before. I booked a moving company for the few boxes I'd left in Marcus's garage, the ones they probably hadn't touched. Loretta said she'd oversee the retrieval through a legal intermediary. "You don't have to see them," she said. "I'll handle it." On the last night at the hotel, I sat by the window and watched cars pass on the street below. I thought about all the years I had worked, saved, bent, and stretched so Marcus could have what he needed. School clothes, baseball registration, college fees, the down payment on their first apartment. None of that had felt like a sacrifice at the time. But now, I understood. Sometimes when you give everything, people start believing they're entitled to take the rest. Not this time. Tomorrow I would get the keys, not just to a house, but to a life I would choose, on my own terms. Moving day came faster than I expected. Loretta met me in the parking lot of the hotel that morning with a clipboard in her hand and a coffee she brought from the good place near her office. She handed me a pen and said, "You're about to be a homeowner again, Mildred." I signed the closing documents on the hood of her car. The sun hadn't fully come out yet, and the pavement still smelled like rain from the night before. She flipped through the papers, double-checked the wire receipt, then handed me a simple envelope with 2 brass house keys inside. "There it is," she said. I stood there for a moment, holding the keys. They felt heavier than they looked, not because of weight, but because of what they meant. No shared account, no guest room, no fake smiles. Just a front door I didn't need to knock on. We drove straight to the house. The porch looked the same as before, but this time, it was mine. Loretta waited while I walked up the steps and unlocked the door for the first time. The lock clicked open without resistance. Inside, the house smelled like new carpet and fresh paint. A few boxes had already been delivered by the courier company. The ones from storage, and the things Loretta's assistant had retrieved from Marcus's garage. Everything else was still bare, but that didn't bother me. We walked from room to room slowly. I pointed to a corner and said, "I think a reading chair will go here." I tapped the kitchen counter. "That's where my coffee pot will live. I'll get you a grocery list started," Loretta said, already making notes on her phone. By noon, we'd unloaded the few bags I had, put away the essentials, and set up a cot in the bedroom until my mattress was delivered later that week. It wasn't fancy, but it was quiet, and it was mine. "I'll give you some space," Loretta said before leaving, "but call if you need anything." I nodded and closed the door behind her. I stood in the hallway for a long time after that, just listening to the silence. Not the kind that hides tension behind the walls. Just plain, honest quiet. That first night in the house, I cooked a simple dinner on the portable burner I'd brought from the hotel. Rice and canned beans with a slice of toast. I ate it standing at the kitchen counter. I didn't need a dining table yet. I went to bed early, wrapped in 2 blankets, 1 folded towel for a pillow. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was new, and that made it bearable. Over the next few days, I settled in piece by piece. I went to the thrift store and found curtains that matched well enough. I picked up a table lamp and a used crock-pot. A neighbor across the street, Mrs. Arnold, waved to me while trimming her hedges. We talked about the weather, then the street sweepers, then about which trash day was recycling. I liked her immediately. By Friday, the new mattress arrived. 2 young men carried it inside and set it up in the bedroom. I thanked them with a small tip and 2 bottles of cold water. They smiled and asked if I needed help moving anything else. I told them no. I was just getting started. That weekend, Loretta came by again. She brought a small TV, one she wasn't using anymore, and helped me mount it to the wall above the fireplace. "You're really doing this," she said, wiping her hands after plugging in the cables. "I'm proud of you." I smiled, but I didn't say anything. I still wasn't ready to call it pride. We sat and had lunch on paper plates, chicken salad sandwiches and a bag of chips. She caught me up on a few community updates, some things going on at the senior center downtown, a grant proposal for elderly housing she was reviewing. "I want to be part of something," I said without thinking. Loretta looked up. "You mean volunteer work?" "Something like that," I said. "I don't want to sit in this house and turn into someone who just waits for the phone to ring." She nodded. "I'll make a list. You'll have options." That night I sat on the new mattress and scrolled through my phone. I hadn't heard a word from Marcus. No call. No text. No knock at the door. Nothing. And honestly, I was fine with that. But on Sunday morning, my phone buzzed with a number I recognized. It was Elijah. He didn't text. He called. "Grandma?" he said when I answered. "Hey, baby." There was a long pause, then, "Where did you go?" I breathed in slowly. "I had to take care of some things." "Dad said you left because you were confused. Is that what he told you?" "Yeah. He said you got upset about something small and ran off," closed my eyes. "That's not what happened." He didn't say anything for a while. Then he said, "Can I come see you?" My throat tightened, but I managed to say, "Yes, you can. I'll send you the address." He showed up that afternoon with a backpack slung over one shoulder and a bag of chips in his hand. He looked taller than the last time I saw him. A little thinner, too. I opened the door and let him in. "This your place?" he asked, looking around. "It is." "It's nice," he said, running his hand along the edge of the couch I'd picked up that morning. "You want a sandwich?" I asked. He nodded. We sat at the small folding table I'd set up in the dining area. He ate quietly, chewing slow, like he was thinking through something. "Mom and Dad have been fighting," he said finally. "Ever since you left?" I nodded. I didn't comment. "I heard them talking last night. Mom said something about the money. Dad said it's handled. But then she started yelling about how you blindsided them. I didn't ask for more. I didn't need to hear their arguments through my grandson's mouth." He looked up at me. "Why'd you leave, Grandma?" I looked him in the eyes. "Because sometimes people stop seeing you as a person and start seeing you as something they can use." He nodded slowly. "I kind of figured." "You're always welcome here, Elijah. But I need you to know something. I didn't run away. I walked out. I believe you." He stayed for a few more hours. We watched an old comedy show on the little TV. He asked if he could come back next weekend. I told him he didn't need to ask. After he left, I sat by the window and watched the porch light flicker on across the street. I thought about Marcus. I thought about the way he didn't stop Celine. How he stood there while she talked about me like I was a piece of mail they forgot to return. He hadn't called once, hadn't even asked where I went. And that told me everything I needed to know. A week after Elijah's visit, I was starting to settle into a rhythm. I had unpacked most of what I owned. The house still looked sparse in places, but it felt like home. Quiet, steady, and honest. I had even bought a little kitchen table from a second-hand shop. Nothing fancy, but it didn't wobble, and that was enough for me. Elijah started coming by every Saturday afternoon. He never stayed long, but he came. Sometimes we made grilled cheese. Sometimes we just watched TV and didn't say much. One weekend, he brought his school backpack and sat at the table doing homework while I folded towels nearby. It was simple, but it meant something. That Sunday evening, Loretta came by after dinner. She brought some legal mail and 2 boxes of tea. I set the kettle while she sat at the table flipping through her notes. "They still haven't contacted you?" she asked. "Not a word," I said. She nodded, then pulled out a folder. "They tried to access the frozen joint account again this week. The bank flagged it. Even after I revoked everything? Marcus probably thought he could still push it through, using old credentials. But the freeze held. It's secure." I didn't react. I had expected that. Loretta tapped the folder. "Do you want me to send them a cease and desist?" I looked at her. "Not yet. Let's wait." She gave me a look, but didn't argue. "You have every legal right to distance yourself, Mildred. That house, the funds, everything is protected under your name now." "That's good," I said, "because I plan to keep it that way." She slid an envelope across the table. "I also finalized your new will." I opened it, read through the basics. She'd updated everything: house, savings, medical proxy, and beneficiary instructions. Just like we discussed. "I didn't name Marcus," I said. "No, you didn't. And that's your right. Elijah's the only one I trust right now. He's a good kid," she said. "I just don't want to be in a position again where people feel entitled to my life just because they're related to it." Loretta packed up and left before it got dark. I sat on the couch afterward and stared at the sealed envelope with my will inside. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I just felt done. 3 days later, Marcus called. It was early evening. I was slicing vegetables when the phone buzzed on the counter. His name popped up. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before answering. "Hello?" "Mom?" His voice sounded unsure, like he wasn't positive I'd pick up. "I'm here," I said. There was a pause. Then, "We've been trying to reach you." "No, you haven't," I said calmly. "You've been trying to reach my money." "Mom, that's not fair. It's accurate." He sighed. "Look, I don't know what you think you heard, but Celine and we were just frustrated. We didn't mean anything by it." "I was standing right there, Marcus. I heard everything. You said I'd be better off in a care facility. She said I was in the way. You didn't correct her? You didn't stop her? You just agreed." She was venting. It was a bad week. We were overwhelmed. "That's no excuse." There was silence again. Then he said, "You moved money out of the joint account. It was never yours. You said we could use it in emergencies. And the emergency turned out to be you." He didn't respond for several seconds. I heard movement on his end. Maybe pacing. "We didn't expect you to leave." He said eventually, "You didn't say anything. You just disappeared. If I had said something, you would have tried to talk me into staying. You would have put on a show, just like you're doing now." He exhaled heavily. "Mom, we were going to help you. Celine and I had a plan to—" "I know you had a plan," I interrupted. "I heard it, every word. You didn't want to help me. You wanted control, and I'm not giving it to you." "So what now?" he asked. "Now I live my life, and you live yours." He sounded stunned. "So that's it?" "For me it is." He tried again. "You're really cutting us off? After everything we've done for you?" I paused. "Tell me one thing you did for me, Marcus. One thing since I moved into your house." He didn't answer. "I thought so," I said, and hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I went back to cutting vegetables. The next morning I went for a walk around the block. It was still chilly, but the sun was out. I passed Mrs. Arnold, who waved at me from her front yard. I waved back. I didn't mention the phone call. I didn't mention Marcus. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. That same week, I started helping out at the local community center on Tuesdays. Loretta had introduced me to the director, a woman named Miss Harper. She ran a senior outreach program. Meals, rides to appointments, that kind of thing. I told her I'd be happy to fold mailers, stuff envelopes, whatever she needed. "You sure you want to be here?" she asked the first day. "You don't have to volunteer." "I know," I said, "but I've got time, and I'm not looking to waste it." She smiled and showed me to the back office where they kept the supplies. By the end of the day, I had met 3 other women my age who also helped out. We didn't talk much at first, but eventually conversation started to flow. One of them, Janice, asked how long I'd lived in the area. "Just moved here," I said. "Family close by?" "Used to be," I said. "Not anymore." She didn't press, just nodded in that way. Older women understand each other without needing every detail. That Saturday, Elijah showed up again. This time, with a small bag of groceries. "Dad doesn't know I'm here," he said, as I let him in. "I figured." He handed me the bag. "I picked some stuff up from the market. Thought you might want apples." "Thank you," I said. "That's kind of you." He sat at the table and took out his homework again. "I don't get what happened," he said after a while. "Why would they treat you like that?" I shook my head. Some people forget who helped them when they had nothing. Or maybe they never knew in the first place. "You think they'll ever say sorry?" I think they're more upset about losing access than they are about losing me. He stayed for dinner again. Before he left, he looked at me and said, "Grandma, I don't want to be like them." "Then don't," I said. The Monday after Elijah's last visit, I was sitting at the dining table folding letters for the community center's food drive. The radio was playing something soft in the background, and I had a cup of tea beside me when I heard a knock at the door. Not a light tap, not the kind neighbors use. This was firm, slow. The kind people use when they're unsure if they should be there. I stood, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. It was Marcus, alone. He had his hands in his jacket, pockets, and looked like he hadn't shaved in a few days. His shirt was wrinkled. There was no car running behind him, no sign of Celine. Just him, standing there like a boy, waiting to be told if he was welcome. I opened the door but didn't. "Step aside." "Hi," he said. I nodded. "What do you want, Marcus?" "Can we talk?" "You're talking." He looked down at his shoes. "Not like this." "I don't have chairs for people who lied to me," I said. "So unless you came to return something that belongs to me, I don't see why we need to do this face to face. I wanted to explain." "No," I said flatly. "You wanted to convince me to change my mind. That's not the same." He ran a hand over his face. Celine moved out. I raised an eyebrow. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but I got caught up. I didn't know how to stop it once it started. The bills, the pressure. "That's funny," I said, "because when I was in your house, all I saw was a woman picking out backsplash tiles and new throw pillows. Didn't look like survival mode to me." He didn't deny it. "I was wrong," he finally said. "I should have stood up for you. You didn't just fail to stand up." I said, "You helped push." His eyes stayed down. I waited, giving him a chance to say something worth hearing. But what came next wasn't an apology. It was a question. "Is it true you bought this place with everything from the sale?" he asked. "That you moved all the money?" I stared at him for a long second. "That's what you came to ask me?" He tried to backtrack. No, I just... Celine said you froze everything, and that you changed the will." "She's right." He opened his mouth again, but I raised a hand. "I'm not doing this with you, Marcus. I'm not standing on my own porch being asked if it's true that I took back what was mine. Mom, no," I said, firmer this time. "You lost access, not because I'm spiteful, but because I'm not stupid. You knew exactly what you were doing. You both did. I'm not giving you another opportunity to play victim now that it didn't work." He looked up finally. "So that's it?" "For you, yes. For Elijah? No. But you. You should leave." He stepped back. "You're really done?" I nodded. "I was done the day you stood in your kitchen and didn't say a word while she planned my exit." I closed the door. He didn't knock again. That evening I told Loretta what happened. She wasn't surprised. "He came because he's out of options," she said, "not because he's sorry." "I know," I said. "He asked about the money before he asked about me." She nodded. "Then you did the right thing." The next few days passed quietly. I got a new chair for the living room, wide and soft with a tall back. I found it at a local estate sale and paid cash. I moved the side table next to it and started keeping a small basket of yarn there. I didn't knit much anymore, but it felt right. Like me. On Saturday, Elijah came again. This time he stayed longer. We made spaghetti and sat in front of the TV watching old movies. He didn't ask about his father. I didn't bring it up. But as we were washing dishes, he said, "I think he's scared." "Why?" "Because he realized he can't fix it. He told me he made a mistake." I dried a plate and placed it back on the shelf. Some mistakes can be repaired. Others, you have to live with. "He's living with it now," Elijah said. "But it's not really hitting him. Not yet." I turned to him. "You're not responsible for that, baby. Don't carry his weight," he nodded. That night, as I walked Elijah to the porch, he paused and looked up at me. "You think it's too late for him?" I shook my head. "It's not too late to grow, but it's too late for things to go back to how they were." He hugged me tighter than usual. The following week, I started helping Miss Harper organize the spring donation drive. We spent afternoons calling donors and sorting inventory. The office was small but warm, and the women there were kind. Nobody asked too many questions. They just welcomed me. One of the other volunteers, Darlene, pulled me aside on Thursday. "Your grandson, he helps you out much?" "He visits," I said. "He's not like the others." She nodded. "My kids haven't come around since Christmas. I used to think I did something wrong. Now I know better." "You still help here?" "Though," I said. "Because I want to?" She replied. "They don't get to decide if I matter." That stuck with me. Later that day, Loretta called. "You should know," she said. "Marcus emailed the bank asking for documentation on the will. He didn't use the word contest, but I think he's fishing." "Let him fish," I said. "He'll find the lake is dry." "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure." That weekend, I finally took down the last unopened box in the hallway. It was filled with old photo albums. Birthdays, graduations, family cookouts. Pictures of Marcus when he was young, before Celine, before the distance. I flipped through a few of them. There were some I hadn't seen in years. Elijah as a baby, asleep on my chest. Me holding a cake with 30 candles, laughing as Marcus leaned over to blow them out with me. I didn't cry. I didn't get sentimental. I just closed the album and placed it back in the box. Some memories are good to keep, but that doesn't mean you bring them into the next room with you. 2 weeks passed after Marcus showed up at my door, and I didn't hear another word from him. Not a message, not an email, nothing. I wasn't expecting one. That kind of silence tells you a lot about who people really are when they're not trying to get something. But Elijah kept coming, every Saturday. Some days he stayed for lunch. Others he'd just sit and talk. He told me about school, about a history project he was working on, and about how quiet the house had gotten since Celine moved out. "She's staying with her sister, now," he said one day. "Dad doesn't talk about it much." "You don't have to tell me anything, baby," I said. "I know," he replied. "But I want to." It was on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, while I was dusting the shelves in the front room that Loretta called. "Thought you'd want to know," she said, getting straight to the point. "Marcus tried filing a petition to contest the asset transfers. Claimed you weren't in the right state of mind when the changes were made." I stood still. Did he actually file it? He tried, but the court dismissed it before it even got to the first hearing. I sent them copies of your notarized documents, the financial records, and the recordings we prepared back when you first came to me. It was clean and airtight. I took a breath. "So that's it?" "For now," she said, "unless he tries something else. But honestly, I don't think he will. I think this was his last shot. I appreciate you letting me know. You've handled this better than most people I've seen in your position," she added. "You didn't just protect yourself. You reclaimed your ground." I didn't say anything right away. I just stood there, holding the dust cloth, listening to the wind outside the window. After we hung up, I walked to the back room and opened the small drawer in the filing cabinet where I kept the paperwork. I looked through the signed forms, the new will, the property title, the account records. Every document had one thing in common: my name, my decision, my control. The next day, I stopped by the community center as usual. Miss Harper greeted me with a cup of coffee and a stack of donation forms. "You're early," she said, smiling. Had to get out of the house. Felt like a good day to do something useful. While I was sorting boxes in the back, Janice came in holding a flyer. "They're doing that community garden project again," she said. "You thinking about signing up?" "Maybe," I said. "I haven't grown anything since Harold passed." "It's good for you," she said. "Puts your hands to work and gives you something to eat later." I folded the paper and tucked it into my bag. That Friday, Elijah came by a little later than usual. He looked nervous when he walked in. I offered him water and sat across from him on the couch. "Grandma," he said, "Dad found out I've been visiting you." I waited. He was mad. Not yelling mad, just disappointed. He said I was picking sides. "You're not," I told him. "You're showing up for someone who was there for you. That's not picking sides. That's being decent." He nodded. I told him that. I told him I come here because I want to, not because I'm trying to hurt him. Did he listen? Maybe. I don't know. He didn't say much after that. "You did the right thing," I said. "Don't let anyone make you feel bad for treating people with respect." He stayed longer that day. We cooked pasta together and played cards after dinner. When it was time for him to leave, he hesitated at the door. "Grandma," he said, "when I turn 18, can I live with you?" I looked at him for a moment. "Why would you want that?" Because here I don't feel like I have to pick my words. I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells. You'll always have a place here, I told him. When you're ready, you come. He smiled. Okay. That night, I sat at the table long after he left, staring at the chair he had been sitting in. For the first time since this whole thing began, I didn't feel unsettled or angry. I felt steady, settled, like the storm had passed. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just a simple envelope with my name written neatly across the front. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Short. Just a few lines. I made mistakes. I let her get in my head. I never meant for it to go that far. I understand now why you left. I just hope someday Elijah doesn't hate me too. No signature, but it didn't need one. I read it once, folded it back and placed it in the drawer next to the rest of the papers. I didn't reply. Some words come too late to matter. That weekend I signed up for the community garden. I picked a small patch near the back corner, close to the fence. It wasn't much, just 6 feet by 4. But it was enough. I planted tomatoes, collard greens, and a little patch of herbs I used to grow when Harold was alive. Every morning after that, I'd walk down to the garden and tend the soil, pull weeds, water, check the progress. Some days Elijah came too. He helped dig, asked questions about the plants, and took pictures to show his friends. One morning, as we were planting a second row of greens, he looked up and said, "You seem happy now." I nodded. I am. You think he knows that? Maybe, maybe not. Do you care? I thought about it for a second. No, I said, I don't. He smiled and went back to digging. That summer, the tomatoes came in strong. The collards took a bit longer, but they grew firm and healthy. I brought a few batches to the center, shared some with Miss Harper, and cooked the rest at home. By the end of August, my house had curtains on every window, pictures back on the walls, and a steady rhythm to my days. I never heard from Marcus again. Celine didn't try either, but that was fine with me. Some people show you who they are. It's up to you to believe them. And I did. I believed them the day I packed my bag in the dark. I believed them when I walked away. And I believe in myself now, with both feet on solid ground, and no door left open for anyone who ever thought I was disposable.